Welcome back to JR Takes. As always, Jonah Hoffman and Ryan Rogers on the mic. And we had a pretty awesome Seattle weekend with, the Mariners clinching over the Blue Jays. And, even though the Seahawks lost, we saw good gameplay from Gino, which is very encouraging. So I'll give it to you, Ryan. What did you... well, I guess first off, how about that comeback?
That has got to be one of the crazier finishes in MLB playoff history. I mean, was it 9-1 at one point or 8-1?
It was 8-1, and then it was 8-1, and then we got 4, and then they got 1, so it was 9-5 was the eventual deficit, and then we came. I can't believe it. It's hard to put into words, like after seeing that and witnessing.
Yeah, I lost faith. I'm too much of a fair weather fan, so I was like, at least they have tomorrow to win the tiebreaker.
I didn't think we would come back, but I was like, yeah, we'll just have to look forward to game 3. But I wasn't like I was surprisingly okay with the situation we were in, and I assumed we were going to lose, but I didn't lose faith completely, if that makes sense. But
you didn't turn the TV off.
No, I kept watching. I did have to go to work, but we were watching it at work. So even when we were down, so I was like, oh, well, maybe we'll come back and win. Who knows? But
yeah, there's something about this team, man. There's just something special about this team, and you see this in sports when teams go on a magical run. You think of the Bengals last year, and they came up just short, but. Man, I believe at this point the Mariners have the pieces right now to take this all the way to the finish line. Yeah,
and it's funny you say that because they're actually as far as the rebuild, they're way ahead of schedule because last year they weren't supposed to be a 90-win team, and even this year they won the same amount of regular season games, but I think a lot of people would have settled for losing the series to Toronto and just getting back. I personally have higher expectations for them. Like if we can run the table and beat Houston this week, then I think sky's the limit with this team. I don't
think there's a team in the MLB that gives the Mariners a tougher time than the Astros too.
Yeah.
So if they can pull this series off, who's to say they can't take it all the way?
Yeah. We have a lot to look forward to this week, and just got to say, it's so stupid that we are playing at 12:30 tomorrow and on Thursday.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. I'm not even going to be able to watch that.
Yeah, it's like we got the early games this weekend. Why do we have to? I don't know.
It's frustrating.
It's pretty lame. But anyway, we'll get
So the
more.
next series is a best of 5 or is it a best of 7?
Yeah, so it goes best of 3, which is what we just did, best of 5, and then best of 7 twice for the CS and the World Series.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of tough, too, because as far as our pitching goes, Robbie Ray got shelled.
He didn't do great
on Saturday, and he does not have a great track record with Houston. I went to a game earlier this year with Dylan, and he gave up a home run on the first pitch, I think, to Altuve.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, pitching is going to be tough. Logan Gilbert is starting game 1, so I'm pretty.
He's had a pretty solid
comfortable
season.
With that roster move, but we need Castillo hopefully he'll be ready by Thursday, and we'll pitch him game 2.
He had such a good game on Friday.
He was throwing
crazy,
100 miles an hour into the 8th inning.
Yeah. Yeah, and his what do you call it, change up or slider or whatever, those were in the mid 90s.
Yeah, the sinker, that's unheard
just
of.
Unfair. He's a freak.
Yeah, I'm very glad. When we traded for him, we traded away 3 of our top 5 prospects, and I was like, oh man, I'm kind of worried that we gave up the whole farm to get one player who, let's be real, I didn't really know that much about because he played for the Reds. I didn't really know that much about Suarez and Winker when we got them because the Reds are,
I never hear about them.
Yeah, they're not like a powerhouse big market team. They're a small market similar to us, and they share the state with two other teams or one other team. I can't remember how many teams are in Ohio. I think just two. But yeah, so very happy that we have him to rely on for at least 2 games per series, you can say.
Yeah, that makes me feel like we have a legit chance because the way he was pitching last week, if he can repeat that performance, like I don't know how you score as the opposing team on that.
Yeah, and it's nice because, I mean, this isn't a good problem to have, but he always seems to struggle against weaker teams, weaker opponents. Like the A's did pretty good against him a couple of times, and the game where we were up 11-2 and lost, he was pitching.
I didn't realize that.
But I feel like he's going to step up and perform well against an Astros team that has had our number 12 times this year. So
it would certainly just be another chapter of the Cinderella story they've been writing so far this season that would just make it all the more satisfying if we make it to the top.
This team, I think I mentioned this on a different podcast, but it reminds me a lot of the 2012 Seahawks because that was Russell's rookie year and this is Julio's rookie year. And it feels like things are kind of just getting started.
And to that note, I was actually going to say this makes me think of 2012, but if we had beaten Atlanta in that crazy comeback.
Yeah.
Because now we get to play the team that is like our big brother that kind of beats up on us. Like, going back in time to 2012, the 49ers had really had our number the last like two and a half seasons leading up to that. Once they got Harbaugh and Alex Smith going and stuff like that. So it's a very similar situation. So I hope they can pull it off.
Yeah, and on the other side of the bracket, the Yankees and the Guardians, I could be wrong. We either went 6-1 or 7-0 against Cleveland. They don't scare me at all. I mean, I just gave you those numbers. That shouldn't scare anybody. And then the Yankees, we also won the overall season series against them too. So we can beat both of those teams. They don't worry me as much as the Astros do. And we don't have a lot of margin for error as opposed to it's a 5-game series as opposed to a 7-game series. So fingers crossed against Houston.
Yeah, for real. Well, yeah, I mean, I only got to watch the game Friday night, but you have any other Mariners related comments going into this? Or is it just...
Nope,
we're going to be hosting a playoff game for the first time in a long time this weekend. Pretty crazy.
I know. I'm still not sure if I'm going to be going to that or not, just because I have to work already, so I would need to get that covered. And I don't know. I feel like it's going to be so crowded that last time I experienced that, it was kind of annoying. I don't think I was ready for T-Mobile Park to be Lumen Field-esque as far as the volume of people.
Being at the Broncos game this year was the most crowded I've ever seen that area of Seattle. And I had to park 2 miles from the stadium and just jog because there was every single lot was completely full. And they were charging like $70 to park. It was outrageous.
That's insane.
But yeah, it's definitely historic times for the Mariners. So we're all going to be tuned in this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess later this week tracking while we're at work.
I can thankfully watch the game tomorrow, but I have to work during the Thursday game. And that's frustrating. But
yeah, I'll just have to check the score periodically. But that's how I track baseball most of the time anyway. So not a big deal for me. But shifting gears towards the NFL and the game yesterday, it was a tough one. It's tough to win when we make a couple just absolutely boneheaded mistakes like the punt botched, whatever the hell that was, where Michael Dixon decides to roll out and not kick the ball for some reason. You have the DK fumble, not fumble that... I mean, I don't think that was a fumble. I think he was down. I thought that was a really stupid overturn, or I guess no overturn by the officials. But at the end of the day, I mean, DK, how many times you got to learn this lesson, man? Just like hang on to that ball and secure it when you're going to the ground.
He needs to take a page out of Tyler Lockett's book, even though it's not DK-esque. He needs to just fall down.
Well, especially in the middle of the field.
I'm not saying
like
every
that.
time, but instead of fumbling, just go down, dude.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one thing if he's in single coverage and it's like 30 yards down the field. But when you're in the middle of the field and there's linebackers coming at you, like, yeah, he's 230 and jacked, but linebackers are like 250. Like, they can hit that ball out like they did. So that was annoying. But man, I don't want to spend this podcast just complaining about the refs, but they were fucking terrible yesterday.
Yeah, they were not good.
They were just awful and very often in favor of the Saints. But, you know, Geno played well enough to win. The offense played well enough to win. I thought the offensive line held up really well, save a few plays in pass protection, and the run blocking was better than it's been for a few games this season against a Saints front that's actually quite formidable against the run. So unfortunate to see Rashad Penny go down like that. His season is likely done unless we make the playoffs or something. But,
yeah, I read that his season's over today.
Yeah, because it's at least like a 10 to 12 week recovery time.
Yeah.
Which would put us right around January. But on the bright side, Kenneth Walker finally had his breakout performance. He looked fast on that 69-yard touchdown run.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because, you know, Rashad Penny's kind of like a bullet shot out of a gun when he gets into the open field. And I think Kenneth Walker might actually be a little bit faster.
Yeah. I mean, he certainly looks lighter than Rashad
He's
Penny.
smaller. Yeah. Rashad Penny's like almost 240. He's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when Kenneth Walker got that big breakthrough run for a touchdown, I kind of had the feeling like we were getting a shift in momentum. And then I think it was the next drive we had was the DK. Or the next drive they had, they scored fast. And then
it was the Taysom Hill run right after.
Yeah.
The Kenneth Walker run was in the fourth quarter, and we went up 32-31 with that play. And at that point, I was like, man, like we actually have a chance to win this game after really kind of just having some sloppy mistakes and horrible breaks from the officials. But literally the next drive, we make Taysom Hill look like Derrick Henry. And Tariq Woolen actually ran 23 miles an hour to catch up to him on that play. They clocked it, next-gen stats. That was the fastest any NFL player has ran since Raheem Mostert in 2020, I saw. And it was a difference of tenths of a mile per hour. So Tariq Woolen is seriously one of the fastest guys in the world.
Well, I don't know if it means too much, but Tariq Woolen's name has been mentioned in our show basically since the start of training camp. So
yeah,
that's a good sign that we have someone on our defense that's doing something good.
Him and Al Woods and Nwosu are really the only guy. Well, actually, Kobe Bryant, I think, is starting to play better and better. He's forced 3 fumbles, which actually leads the NFL, believe it or not. But beyond those 4 guys and the occasional Jordan Brooks had a good hit that just made me smile, but other than that, he kind of just looks like a guy out there. Our defense is just so fucking bad. It's so bad, and it's not getting it. The thing is, they actually played better than last week, I thought, because they forced 4 punts, but man, it was like Taysom Hill looked like the best football player who's ever lived against our defense. When, I mean, has he done anything this season besides yesterday?
Yeah, no, he hasn't.
It's frustrating. I mean, you think of Cordero Patterson and, you know, Hawkinson the week before, and now Taysom Hill. It's like every loss we've had
has been one killer against us, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super frustrating. I guess the 49ers game was more of a slow, methodical, miserable death, but it
was their run game that I feel like ripped us apart.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's different about this year as opposed to others is we, at least in the past, we could stop the run decently well. I think last year we only allowed like just above or just under 4 yards per carry. We're allowing 5 yards per carry this season. And when you do that, it's so hard to get off the field because every third down is like a 3rd and 2 or a 3rd and 1. And the thing that's concerning is I don't know what they can do to fix it this year. They're kind of stuck with the defensive line that they have right now. And I think the line and the linebackers and by extension, the safety play has, I mean, that's like most of the fucking defense there. But basically, the front seven has been a huge disappointment, especially in run defense. I gotta say, I mean, I think the switch to the 3-4 front hasn't worked well at all. And I wonder if I'm getting to the point where I'm wondering if they're going to actually stick with this change and, you know, just take the growing pains as they come, or if Pete's going to be like, all right, fuck this. We're going back to 4-3, cover 3, my thing, because that's what I know how to do. I don't know what the answer is, but something's got to give, because there's no way Pete is satisfied having the worst, objectively the worst defense in the NFL. I mean, we've given up the most points. We've given up bottom 2 in yards, and we've given up, I think, the most yards per carry rushing. So
yeah, it really has been a bummer how some of our guys like Darrell Taylor haven't been able to transition and may take that next step in being an anchor on our defense. It's because, like you were saying, there really isn't a definitive answer of how to solve this. It kind of just like, well, do we change the whole scheme, or do we keep it around and just kind of deal with it and ride it out and see how the season progresses?
The more I watch, the more I'm just kind of like, these players just aren't very good. I think, you know, this, to me, this season has always been about finding out what we have to continue the rebuild into next year and not really caring about the wins and losses. But with our offense playing this well, it's really frustrating for the defense to suck this hard.
Yeah.
Because even if we just had a mediocre defense, we could legitimately be having playoff talk right now, because Geno is playing that good. Tyler Lockett and DK are playing that good. The tight end group looks awesome. The running game is getting going, and the offensive line is the best one that we've fielded in a very long time, 8 years at least, I would say. So on the optimistic side, I love how quick we've been able to turn around this offense, and Shane Waldron is kind of finding his groove as a coordinator. But I'm firmly in the camp right now that we should use both of our first round picks on defense, linebacker and someone in the front seven, or I guess just both of them in the front seven. And I hate to say it, and I think he'll turn it around because he's been one of the best the last few years, but Quandre Diggs has not been playing good.
No, he hasn't. And I feel like yesterday when we were watching him play, he was just like missing one-on-one tackles.
Yeah.
And that seemed, from what I remember, that was like one of the things he was better at doing.
Well, and it seems like part of it, he's just getting to the one-on-one situation like half a second later than usual. Mm-hmm. So it's becoming a harder tackle to make than, you know, if someone catches the ball or whatever and you get to them as they're turning upfield, it's a lot easier to make the tackle than when they have a chance to like juke you out.
Make a move.
Yeah. And so it makes me wonder if that injury he had last year has made him lose a step in speed.
It's possible.
It's not too hard to make that conclusion. But I'm more inclined to give him a pass because I know as a safety, if everything in front of you is bad, it makes your job way harder. And I think the fact that he's having to make all these one-on-one tackles just shows you blown assignments and just overall bad defense. Defense is a cohesive effort. It's not, if your defense is contingent upon a bunch of people winning one-on-one matchups and making isolated good plays, you're going to lose a lot because you want multiple guys tackling a player at once, you know.
Yeah.
You want to give safety help when you can and avoid tough one-on-one matchups, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. And Sam Gold on Twitter and Matty Brown, they're two guys that know way more about football than I do, and they keep saying how it looks like missed assignment after missed assignment when they watch. So it seems to be schematic changes, coaching, and just frankly a lack of talent in the front seven are all coinciding to what's happening right now. Mm-hmm. So I hope Pete can just light a fire under their ass and make them just play a little more disciplined and maybe make things a little easier on them. I don't know what they have to do, but I don't expect them to suddenly become a top 10 unit this season, but if they can at least just get to be like the 22nd best defense instead of the 32nd, we could end up, you know, with a pretty decent record at the end of the year.
Is our defense worse than the Lions?
I think right now in terms of points allowed it is, because think about it. We've given up 82 in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That's crazy because we were just behind the Lions before, or I guess in front of the Lions, but they gave up 27. We gave up 37. So there you go. But on the flip side of that, we are the number 1 offense by DVOA now. So at this point, I think it's safe to say it's no longer a fluke.
Did we ever figure out what DVOA stood for?
I did, and then I forgot. Let me look it up real quick. It is defense adjusted value over average. Basically some person did a lot of math and came up with this formula that seems to do a good job ranking teams of performances. But
gotcha. Just for defenses or
no. There's DVOA for offense and defense. And special teams, which I feel like our special teams hasn't gotten enough flack the last few weeks for how the games have played out, but they really do deserve it. We've had some fumbles on punts. We've had kind of just dumb penalties covering punts. And we had that horrible botched whatever punt with Michael Dixon getting tackled last week. And that's something that really needs to improve fast. But yeah, was there anyone that really stood out to you during the game last week? Or,
I mean, Gino, I can't say it enough. He's starting to make me think, like I was saying last episode, like we need to maybe even talk about, what is that?
This is the DVOA offensive rankings. We're number 1 with Baltimore and Kansas City rounding out the top 3.
Damn. Yeah. See, it's just so funny because everyone thought, myself included, that Seattle's offense was going to be the thing holding us back and the defense was going to be our strong point.
Yeah, I said that many times over the course of the offseason.
Turns out that it's the complete opposite and it's like not close at all.
Yeah, Gino's performance so far this season has been one of the most surprising things I've ever seen in 17 years of watching football, because he played good against the Jaguars last year, but overall I thought it was a pretty extreme game manager type of quarterback play that we got from Gino.
It's making me kind of wonder if Pete is doing what he said he was going to do about the whole letting him off the leash, so to speak.
Well, I mean, it seems like it. You think of those throws to Tyler Lockett, those were into triple coverage, and Gino just threaded that baby in there so perfectly, 53 yards downfield. Mm-hmm. Those are one of the best throws I've seen all season.
Yeah.
That was
Which we got to put the Seahawks talk on pause for a moment and go over to our friends in Denver and just talk about how Russell has looked.
Yeah, I forgot to bring that up, but holy shit, has that trade looked like a win for us so far.
Yeah, back when we did it in March, I was obviously on the side of why are we, keeping our coach who is not young by any means, and it seems like the NFL every other second is hiring some young 30-something-year-old dude to come in and take over and a new scheme, whatever, in Denver, for example.
Yeah, Hackett. He's in his 40s or something.
Something like that. But point being is when we traded Russ, I was on the side of wanting Russ here and couldn't believe that we chose the former over the latter. And
it really didn't make sense at the time because, we thought Russ was maybe at the tail end of his prime, but still in his prime. He had thrown 25 touchdowns to only 6 picks, still had a above 100 passer rating, and was still hitting that deep ball super well, even with the finger injury towards the end of the year. But I seriously, just watching Russell play right now, I think something is seriously shot with his confidence. It brings to mind that his mental coach, Trevor Moad, passed away last year, and he's been real shaky overall since then, with little moments of brilliance popping up here and there. But I have to think that, the boos from the crowd and the media just kind of shitting all over him, and frankly, what it looks like his teammates getting frustrated with him too. Mm-hmm. It's all culminating into a really toxic situation. And I do feel a bit sorry for Russell Wilson, the human, But when it comes to Russell Wilson, the player, like, dude, this is what you wanted. This is what you asked for. This is what you were bitching about for all those years through your team and, you know, saying you're going to go to this perfect situation and yada, yada, yada. You wanted to be in this division with all these top quarterbacks. You wanted the pressure. This is what you asked for. And I think it's a classic moment of be careful what you wish for. He is getting absolutely eviscerated by every media source. I mean, Pat McAfee was shitting all over him. Matt Hasselbeck was saying shit about him.
That's what I was.
You had Randy Moss. Eli Manning the week before said they should have been paying the punter $250 million.
Well, and I didn't even. What I was gonna say was you also have people on, like, I think it's the NFL Good Morning on NFL Network. It's some channel.
Good Morning
like
Football.
That. Good Morning Football. One of the hosts on there called Russell Wilson a poser. Did you hear that soundbite?
Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, dang, that, like, hearing someone say that about him and, like, on a show like that is like, it just, that hearing that word and associating it with Russell Wilson, it just is like, dang,
it's crazy.
Harsh.
Yeah, I mean, and I've even had some enjoyment in the shitting on him over the last few months, but at this point, because he's still someone that, you know, I had so much love for and did so many great things for our organization, just watching the whole world kind of turn on him, it just goes to show how much on-field performance dictates media treatment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think a lot of people had these feelings about Russell Wilson for years, about his corniness and attitude, but he threw such a damn good deep ball. We don't care about it. We're not going to make fun of him for it. But now that he's playing like shit, everyone's like, he's fake as fuck. He's a phony.
Everyone, Gino, the praise he's getting is like the complete opposite. It was like, I don't know, some like upside down Stranger Things universe where, like, they switched lives or something. Because now Gino is getting all the love.
Yeah, and now Gino is throwing beautiful deep balls to Tyler Lockett between defenders. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I could not have predicted that this would be where we are 5 weeks into the season. And, you know, I'm pissed that we lost against Atlanta and New Orleans, but I don't really even care because our defense is so bad. Like, what are we going to do in the playoffs if we make it? But
yeah,
from Denver's perspective, dude, they sold the farm for this guy. They're like, we are a quarterback away from Super Bowl contention. And they look like one of the worst. They look worse than us, objectively. Like, their defense looks much, much better than ours. But their offense is the most dysfunctional, like, useless looking thing I've ever seen. They couldn't score a touchdown.
Well, and so I was listening to this segment that Colin Cowherd was talking about the Giants and why they've been doing good. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really even think about this, but it's totally true. Their coach, the guy that they brought in from Buffalo, he's been getting the ball to Saquon Barkley, like, on I can't remember what the numbers were, but a very high percentage of their offensive plays. Mm-hmm. They're getting him the ball, like, on most
I know
of
he's
those,
having a monster fantasy season
on most of those years. And I've had him on my team for this will be my fourth year now of having Barkley on one of my dynasty teams. And I've always been frustrated because I'm like, why are you putting the ball in Daniel Jones's hands? He sucks. And Saquon Barkley is like a generational talent.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like they're doing good because they're following that one of the parts of the formula and the fact that they're getting the ball to their best player. Mm. And I brought this up because of Denver. They should have been getting the ball to their best player, Javonte Williams. Give him the ball every time. Now, granted, he's hurt, torn ACL now, but, like, when they were running the ball, Richard Sherman put it pretty bluntly last Thursday, they would have success. And Russell trying to throw in the red zone every chance that they get is just poor game management. Yeah.
And just the situational management too I mean, they were up like 12-9, I want to say, in the red zone. 2 minutes left or so. Colts have no timeouts. You can take a fucking knee and kick a field goal at that point, and you're in way better position to win the game than having Wilson, throw a pick in the end zone to Stephon Gilmore. Like, I on that play, I don't know what he was thinking. Both of his interceptions were for a guy that's famously protected the football at an elite rate over his entire career. He just looks like someone else is in his body controlling him with the decisions he's making. But
so
also,
I'm telling you, man, Freaky Friday, Geno Smith and him swapped.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. But the situational management of like critical moments in games from Wilson and Hackett has been horrific. I know there's that meme floating around of what's his name, Gordon, the running back. The fuck is his name? Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. On Denver, he just is kind of like glaring at Russ on the sidelines after Russ did something bad.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
But every time I see that meme floating around, I'm like, Gordon, you fumbled like 4 times this year. Like, you're a big reason why the team is 2-3 as well. So, like, you don't really have room to talk there, buddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what is Denver's identity right now? I mean, Jerry Jeudy, yeah, he's very physically talented. He's not a very consistent player yet. This is all offseason I've been saying, if not on this podcast, but just in passing, like, I don't get why the media was hyping up Denver's weapons so much, because Cortland Sutton is really good and Javonte Williams is really good. Outside of that, I don't think their receivers are any better than what we have in Seattle. I mean, look at how fucking good DK and Tyler are doing with Geno and the tight ends. Noah Fant was one of their main weapons. He's kind of like second in command to Will Disley in our offense. And it's working out great for us. We're in Denver. There's all sorts of miscommunications. I've been hearing some people say they think they're trying to run an Aaron Rodgers offense with Russell Wilson, and it's just not clicking for whatever reason.
Well, the reason is because Russell Wilson can't do what Aaron Rodgers can do, but he thinks he can. And
I mean, well, no one can do what Aaron Rodgers can do besides like Mahomes, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a sustainable mold to build your team around if you don't have that guy. And what Wilson is good at, he's really good at least in years past. Play action, deep ball, just being clutch, being mobile, all those things he was like top tier at. But all these like intermediate, like quick game and just precision.
Yeah,
high.
He really seems to just want to fit this pocket passer mold.
Yeah,
and it's almost like it's weird because the quarterback position has changed in the past 20 years, where you do have a lot of more players playing the position like him, and I feel like Mahomes is kind of like a hybrid. Like, he's like an Aaron Rodgers and a Russell Wilson, maybe not as agile and escape Houdini-esque as Wilson was in his like heyday, but it's just weird that Russell wants to go away from that completely because he's not running.
I know, and I feel like he's not running because he wants to prove to people that he doesn't need to, but it's like, dude, you need to do what you're good at, not what you want to be good at. If you want to be good in a league as hard as the NFL. So I've kind of been thinking that for the last few years, actually, is I feel like a lot of Russell Wilson's play has been in defiance of some narratives about him and that he's trying to prove doubters wrong or whatever. But he's clearly a lot worse at those things than, what he is good at, which is like play action, getting outside the pocket, using
he wants to be Mr. Unlimited, and being Mr. Unlimited apparently means trying to do things that you're not good at doing and then being stubborn about it when you're not good at them, and then trying to, just keep going down that path further and further until you're lost and don't have an identity, like the Denver Broncos are currently in that state.
Yeah, and just to compound the Denver Broncos' woes, they got major injury problems. I think one of their offensive linemen is out for the year now, to add to the list of injuries they've been racking up. they're stuck with Wilson for 5 years. There's no way out of this. They're going to be paying him like close to $40 million a year for the next 5 years. It makes no sense to try to draft a quarterback, or I don't know what they're going to do. They just have to make Wilson work. Even if they fire Hackett, I mean, is that going to be good for the team's morale? I don't think so. It's a toxic situation, and it's basically all on Russ to right the ship. And he's hurt too.
Yeah,
he has an injured shoulder.
Well, it's certainly not helping their case for how many primetime games they've been getting too. Yeah. It seems like every week
they have another one coming up
Monday night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not looking good. And yeah, it's just so funny because we have like, remember when the schedule came out, we noticed we had the 2 mandatory ones, the Monday night and the Thursday night, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And we've been playing a lot more entertaining football than the Denver Broncos
I think we're one of the most exciting teams to watch right now, but partially because their defense is so bad and there's a score on every drive.
Yeah.
No matter which team is up. But yeah, Denver's been fucking unwatchable.
Yeah.
So many people were saying that was the worst game they've ever seen on Thursday.
And before that, they had the other worst game when they played San Francisco.
Yeah.
The 10-11 game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Denver, the highest amount of points they scored all season was against the Raiders in that 32-23 game that they lost. 23 points. That's the most that's their ceiling.
That's what Geno puts up in a half, baby. Happy birthday, Geno Smith, by the way. Today is his birthday, October 10th. We almost have the same birthday, actually. I did not realize that. He's 32 now. So I guess last thing I want to talk about before we sign off is Geno has played well enough to the point where in a world where it was easy and seamless to sign a quarterback that's a pending unrestricted free agent to a not mega deal, I'd love to just sign him for the next 3 years, maybe draft someone, maybe not, but just, load up on the defense and let's roll with what we have because this offense is good enough to compete at any level.
Agreed.
But here's the thing. Let's think about the last few quarterbacks that have actually been allowed to hit free agency. Number 1, Brock Osweiler. Do you remember how much he got paid?
Yeah, he sucked.
Yeah. And he got paid big time money for like a few games of mediocre play. Then you have Jimmy Garoppolo. He got paid, I think, upwards of $20 million a year in 2018 for 5 games that he did decent. You think of Matt Flynn all those years ago in 2012.
Yeah.
We gave him $10 million because of 1 fucking game. And you think of Kirk Cousins when he signed with the Vikings, it was like a mostly guaranteed contract. Something well into the $20 to $30 million a year. For a guy who's, I actually think Kirk Cousins gets too much hate because he does put up good numbers, but never been an elite quarterback. The way Geno Smith is playing right now, let's say Tom Brady retires. He probably will. You don't think Tampa's going to want a guy that's ready to win to put on their roster and just be able to throw whatever price tag at him? Like, there's a very good chance that Geno is going to be a very rich man coming in March in the next free agency period. So if given the choice between moving on and just taking a quarterback with our first round pick or committing to Geno long term, where are you at with that at this point?
Well, I would say in response to what you just said about other teams like Tampa going after him, I would personally pump the brakes on that because I don't foresee a team rolling the dice on a guy like Geno because, like you said, it's the most shocking thing you've seen on all of your years watching football, seeing a guy like him just start performing out of nowhere. I almost feel like a lot of that has to do with Pete Carroll being in that setting in order for something like that to happen. But with that being said, I do think I don't think we're gonna have to break the bank to keep Geno around if he has a successful season and we win 9 or 10 games, something around that number. Yeah, I would sign Geno to hopefully have him around the next couple seasons because I'm in the thinking of, using our first 4 draft picks, the 2 in the first and the 2 in the second, just get defense.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what
I think we should do. Get
if nothing else, his
edge
play is
rusher,
proved,
linebacker.
we're not a quarterback away from anything.
Yeah.
You know, this is not a quarterback problem. What's wrong with our team right now?
Yeah.
So I'm totally in agreement with you there. I think the one I guess I just overall disagreed. I think he is going to break the bank this offseason. Unless he shits his pants the rest of the year, then I think we could get him back super cheap. But just quarterbacks get paid, dude. Even Mitch Trubisky got a lot of guaranteed money from the Steelers just for being a backup and being shitty for the Bears. Like, if we could get Geno for even, I would go all the way up to $20 million a year, because with the way the cap is increasing and the way the quarterback market has changed, this level of quarterback play for $20 million a year is a discount. I'm down for that, but and I could see that happening, but I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, teams get crazy and they get greedy in free agency. I mean, look at what Christian Kirk got from the Jaguars as a receiver. Like, just crazy stuff has been happening. So it just comes down to, is it better to, you know, shell out for Geno? I don't think it's a terrible move, but if we can get a rookie quarterback that's making pennies on the dollar compared to that and load up on defensive players in free agency that are more of a guarantee for success, that could be a better strategy, especially with the quarterback class we got coming up. But I think either way, it's a good problem to have your supposed to be journeyman, stopgap veteran quarterback playing at a near MVP level. There's a lot worse problems to have in the league. But I think it's creating a very unique situation for the team long term, and one that I haven't really seen before. This whole thing it's unique. It's bizarro world level stuff going on with Geno, but yeah. I'm all for it. It's making this, if nothing else, this season has been fucking fun to watch besides the San Francisco game. And that's really all I could ask for this season, because no one thought that we had a chance for much of anything other than the number 1 pick this year. So to see us actually be competitive and entertaining, it's great.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I guess the draft and offseason talk is more of a discussion for later, but it's something to think about as these games are going on. So I guess to wrap up, our next game is against the Cardinals at home, a team that's notorious for not caring about the 12th man advantage. I like our odds to beat the Cardinals this week, though, because the Saints have a much better defense than the Cardinals do, and we still were able to put up 32 points. It's just, it all comes down to if we can goat Kyler into making some mistakes.
Yeah, this game I'm not sure. I think it'll be a shootout. I'm just going to start saying it's going to be a shootout every week until our defense proves me otherwise.
I feel like we got to score 40 to win any games this year.
Yeah, because our defense can't do anything as far as stopping anybody.
The only thing it can do is Al Woods its way to a sack and have Tariq Woolen get a pick, who's gotten 3 picks in the last 3 games. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but the Cardinals have some weapons, though. I don't foresee our defense stopping Zach Ertz, Hollywood Brown.
It's going to be frustrating.
Guys.
I mean,
we do have what's his name? DeAndre Hopkins is suspended still, so we can take advantage of that, hopefully, but probably not.
See, normally I would agree with you, but like, think of the last 2 teams we've played and how undermanned they've been, and the players that have been out for them. I mean, we only had like 2.5 quarters of Chris Olave as the Saints' main weapon, and it didn't matter. The Lions had their practice squad running routes against us, and Jared Goff still threw for like 700 billion yards.
Which, speaking of the Lions, what a weird game after us to put up 45 and then 0 the next week against a shitty New England team.
I watched some of that game, and they just played bad. Like, I know Bill Belichick is really good at coordinating a defense, but the Lions just sucked ass against the Pats. I watched the game. They executed a lot worse off than they did against us. And I don't know what the deal with that is, because sometimes a team plays the Seahawks and it's like they're making amazing catches. They're like playing so crisp. And then I watch them the next week and they're like fucking up basic football operations. And I feel like week to week, you get teams are not the same week to week.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say, and we kind of keep getting unlucky on getting in a team on their good week. But I have to say, the loss to the Falcons isn't looking as bad as it felt in the moment because they gave the Bucs everything they had, and were really unfortunate to get one of the worst roughing the passer calls I've ever seen.
I didn't get a chance. Was it for Tom Brady?
It was on Tom Brady, yeah.
Of course
it was third down. Falcons might have got the ball back and been able to win it. Bucks end up winning. Dude, you got to see it. I don't even want to talk about it. It's so bad. It was worse than anything that happened in the Saints game, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm just going to keep predicting W's because fuck it, it's our podcast. We're beating the Cardinals this weekend. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
38-37 is my prediction.
I'm going to go 31-34.
So we're losing? Oh, okay.
No, I'd for some reason like to say the losing score first.
Oh, okay.
But,
I can accept
we're the home
that.
team, so you say the home team second. That's my logic.
All right.
No.
Well, that's going to be it for this episode of JR Takes. Thanks for listening. Go Hawks, baby. We'll see you on the next one.